What if I told you that every substance you put into your body carries its own vibrational signature? That the plant medicines our ancestors revered for thousands of years weren't just getting people high, but were actually keys to accessing higher states of consciousness? Cannabis has been called many things: a drug, medicine, a gateway, a gift from the gods. But what ancient wisdom keepers knew and what modern science is slowly rediscovering is that this plant operates on frequencies that can either elevate or diminish your spiritual energy, depending on how you use it. The question isn't whether cannabis affects your vibration. The question is, are you using it to rise or to fall? Long before cannabis became controversial, it was sacred. In the Hindu tradition, cannabis is called ganja, meaning sacred plant, and is associated with Lord Shiva, the god of consciousness and destruction of illusion. Hindu texts dating back over 3,000 years describe cannabis as one of the 5 sacred plants that bring joy and liberation. The Atharva Veda, one of Hinduism's oldest scriptures, refers to cannabis as a source of happiness, a joy giver, and a liberator. Ancient Indian ascetics, known as sadhus, have used cannabis for millennia as a tool for meditation and spiritual practice, believing it helps quiet the mind and connect with divine consciousness. In ancient China, the legendary emperor Shen Nung wrote about cannabis in his Pharmacopoeia around 2700 BCE, calling it one of the supreme elixirs of immortality. Traditional Chinese medicine understood that different plants carried different energetic qualities, some warming, some cooling, some ascending, some descending. The ancient Scythians, nomadic warriors of Central Asia, used cannabis in ritual ceremonies described by the Greek historian Herodotus around 440 BCE. They would gather in enclosed tents, throw cannabis on hot stones, and breathe the vapor as part of spiritual purification rituals. These weren't random cultural practices. Ancient civilizations understood something we've forgotten. Plants carry intelligence, frequency, and spirit. They knew that consciousness could be expanded or contracted depending on the plant's energy and the user's intention. Modern quantum physics tells us that everything in the universe vibrates at specific frequencies. This isn't mystical thinking, it's measurable science. Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, a pioneering researcher in the early 1900s, discovered that every living organism has a unique electromagnetic frequency signature. Recent studies using biofield imaging technology have shown that plants emit measurable electromagnetic fields. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on morphic fields suggests that plants carry information patterns that extend beyond their physical form. Essentially, they have energetic blueprints that affect their environment. Cannabis contains over 100 different cannabinoids, each with its own molecular structure and vibrational pattern. THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, the psychoactive compound, vibrates at a different frequency than CBD, cannabidiol, the healing compound. This explains why different strains and ratios create completely different experiences. Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, the Israeli scientist who first isolated THC in 1964, discovered that our bodies have an entire endocannabinoid system. This is a network of receptors throughout the brain and body that respond to cannabis-like compounds. This system regulates everything from mood and memory to pain and appetite. But here's what's fascinating. This same endocannabinoid system is connected to what ancient traditions call the chakra system. The CB1 receptors are concentrated in areas that correspond to the crown, third eye, and throat chakras, the energy centers associated with higher consciousness, intuition, and spiritual communication. Cannabis is like a mirror. It reflects and amplifies whatever energy you bring to it. This is why the same plant can be a tool for spiritual awakening for one person and a trap of mental fog for another. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this dual nature. In Hindu philosophy, cannabis is associated with both Shiva, consciousness, and Kali, destruction. It can destroy illusions and reveal truth, but it can also destroy motivation and clarity if misused. The Rastafarian tradition, which considers cannabis a sacred sacrament, teaches that the plant is meant to enhance meditation, increase awareness, and connect with the divine. But even within this tradition, there are guidelines about proper use. It's not meant for escapism, but for spiritual elevation. Modern research supports this ancient understanding. Dr. Robin Carhart-Harris at Imperial College London has studied how psychoactive substances affect the brain's default mode network. This is the area responsible for ego and self-referential thinking. His studies show that cannabis can either quiet the ego, leading to expanded awareness, or reinforce it, leading to paranoia and self-obsession, depending on dosage, setting, and mindset. When cannabis raises your vibration, it enhances present-moment awareness. THC affects the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory formation. In lower doses, this can create a heightened sense of present-moment awareness, exactly what meditation traditions have sought for thousands of years. You become less caught up in mental chatter about the past and future, allowing you to drop into deeper states of being. The plant can expand empathy and connection. Cannabis activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain region associated with empathy and emotional processing. Many users report feeling more connected to others, to nature, and to the universal field of consciousness. This mirrors what mystics describe as experiencing the unity underlying apparent separation. Artists, musicians, and writers have long reported that cannabis helps them access creative states where ideas flow freely and new connections become apparent. The plant activates the right hemisphere of the brain, associated with creativity, intuition, and pattern recognition. Cannabis enhances sensory perception and body awareness. When used mindfully, this can help you become more attuned to subtle energies, emotions stored in the body, and the energetic quality of different environments and people. THC can temporarily reduce activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO that normally filters and organizes experience. While this can be disorienting for some, others find it allows access to normally unconscious material insights, memories, and perspectives that the rational mind typically blocks. Ancient traditions recognized these effects and developed practices to work with them skillfully. Hindu sadhus combine cannabis use with meditation, mantra repetition, and breathwork. Rastafarians use it alongside prayer, reasoning, philosophical discussion, and connection with nature. But cannabis isn't always elevating. When misused, it creates energetic patterns that actually lower your vibration and spiritual awareness. When cannabis becomes a way to avoid dealing with life's challenges, it creates a pattern of spiritual bypassing. Instead of working through difficult emotions, relationships, or circumstances, you use the plant to numb out or escape. This prevents growth and keeps you stuck in repetitive cycles. Regular, heavy use of high THC cannabis can create what researchers call a motivational syndrome. This is a state of mental cloudiness, reduced motivation, and emotional flatness. This happens because chronic THC use can downregulate the brain's natural dopamine production, leading to a need for external stimulation to feel normal. While cannabis isn't physically addictive like alcohol or opioids, it can create psychological dependency. When you need cannabis to feel creative, social, or spiritually connected, you've given away your natural power to access these states. This dependency actually lowers your baseline vibration over time. For some people, especially those with unresolved trauma or anxiety, cannabis can amplify fear-based thought patterns. THC can increase activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, leading to paranoid thinking, social anxiety, and disconnection from others. Some people use cannabis as a spiritual trophy, a way to feel more enlightened or conscious than others. This creates spiritual ego, which is actually a lower vibrational state than humble, ordinary awareness. True spiritual development involves less ego, not more. The ancient Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita, warns against becoming attached to the means rather than the end. When the tool becomes the goal, you've lost the path. The most important factor determining whether cannabis raises or lowers your vibration isn't the plant itself, it's your relationship with it. Ancient shamanic traditions understood that plant medicines are teachers, not just substances. They carry consciousness and intelligence, and they respond to how you approach them. There's a difference between using cannabis as a sacred tool for spiritual practice and using it recreationally for entertainment or escape. Sacred use involves ceremony, intention, respect, and integration. Recreational use often lacks these elements and can lead to unconscious patterns. The words set and setting, coined by psychologist Timothy Leary, refer to your mindset and environment when using any consciousness-altering substance. If you're using cannabis while stressed, in chaotic environments, or with unconscious people, you're more likely to have a lower vibrational experience. Ancient traditions understood the importance of dosage. The Sanskrit concept of sattvic doses refers to amounts that enhance clarity and awareness without overwhelming the system. Modern research supports this. Microdosing cannabis can enhance creativity and awareness, while larger doses often lead to confusion and lethargy. Using cannabis without any spiritual practice or integration is like trying to fill a leaky bucket. The insights and elevated states need to be grounded through meditation, yoga, journaling, or other practices that help you integrate the experience into ordinary consciousness. We live in a time when cannabis is being rapidly legalized and commercialized, but without the wisdom traditions that once guided its use. Dispensaries sell products based on potency and effects, but they don't teach about sacred use, proper dosage, or the importance of intention. This has created what we might call spiritual cannabis culture versus consumer cannabis culture. In consumer culture, cannabis is treated like alcohol, a way to relax, have fun, or escape stress. In spiritual culture, it's treated as a plant teacher that requires respect, preparation, and conscious engagement. Dr. Michael Pollan, in his book How to Change Your Mind, writes about the importance of approaching psychoactive plants with humility and respect. He notes that indigenous cultures spent generations learning how to work with these substances safely and effectively, while modern Western culture often jumps in without proper preparation or guidance. The commercialization of cannabis has also led to the development of extremely high THC strains that would have been unknown to ancient cultures. While natural cannabis typically contains 2 to 5% THC, modern strains can contain 20 to 30% or more. This is like the difference between drinking beer and drinking pure alcohol. The effects and risks are completely different. If you choose to work with cannabis as a spiritual tool, ancient traditions offer guidance on how to do so consciously. Treat your cannabis use as a ceremony, not a casual activity. Set aside specific times and spaces for cannabis-assisted spiritual practice. Clean your environment, light candles or incense, and approach the experience with reverence. Before using cannabis, spend time in meditation or prayer, setting a clear intention for your experience. Ask the plant to help you with specific spiritual goals, greater compassion, creative inspiration, healing trauma, or connecting with divine consciousness. Begin with very small doses and gradually increase only if needed. The goal isn't to get as high as possible, but to find the minimal dose that enhances your natural awareness and spiritual sensitivity. Use cannabis alongside established spiritual practices like meditation, yoga, breathwork, or chanting. The plant can deepen these practices, but it shouldn't replace them. Notice how different strains, dosages, and settings affect your energy and consciousness. Keep a journal of your experiences, noting what enhances your spiritual awareness and what diminishes it. Ancient traditions understood the importance of periods of sobriety to integrate insights and maintain natural sensitivity. Regular breaks from cannabis use help prevent tolerance and dependency while allowing you to assess how the plant is affecting your baseline consciousness. Seek out teachers, elders, or communities that understand sacred cannabis use. Learning from those with experience can help you avoid common pitfalls and develop a more skillful relationship with the plant. Recent neuroscience research is beginning to validate what ancient traditions always knew about sacred plant use. Dr. Robin Carhart Harris's research on the entropic brain shows that psychoactive substances can increase neural plasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections and break old patterns. When used intentionally in supportive settings, cannabis can help break negative thought patterns, increase empathy and connection, and open the mind to new perspectives. But when used habitually in unconscious ways, it can reinforce existing patterns and actually decrease neuroplasticity over time. Studies on meditation and cannabis use show that combining the two can create unique brain states not achievable through either practice alone. The key is that the meditation practice provides a stable foundation of awareness that can skillfully navigate the altered states cannabis produces. Dr. Judson Brewer at Yale University has studied how mindfulness practice affects the brain's default mode network, the same area affected by cannabis. His research shows that experienced meditators can maintain awareness and choice even in altered states of consciousness, while those without training often get swept away by whatever thoughts or emotions arise. Ancient traditions also understood that cannabis picks up and amplifies the energy of its environment. This is why indigenous cultures were so careful about where and how they grew their sacred plants, often choosing specific locations with good energy and treating the cultivation process as a spiritual practice. Modern commercial cannabis is often grown in warehouse facilities with artificial lights, chemical fertilizers, and purely profit-driven motivations. The energy of mass production, chemical inputs, and profit motives can become embedded in the plant's frequency. Some cultivators are returning to more conscious growing methods, treating cannabis cultivation as a spiritual practice, growing in natural environments, and infusing the process with positive intentions. Many users report that cannabis grown with love and consciousness feels very different from commercially produced products. This understanding aligns with research on structured water and the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, who showed that water crystals form differently when exposed to different emotions and intentions. Since cannabis plants are largely water, it makes sense that the consciousness of those growing and handling the plants would affect their energetic quality. Cannabis is returning to mainstream culture at a crucial time in human history. We're facing unprecedented global challenges that require new levels of consciousness, creativity, and connection. Used wisely, cannabis can be a tool for personal and collective awakening. Used unconsciously, it becomes another form of escapism from the very changes we need to make. The ancient wisdom traditions remind us that all plant medicines are neutral. They amplify whatever we bring to them. If we approach cannabis with sacred intention, proper preparation, and conscious practice, it can help us access higher states of awareness, creativity, and connection. If we approach it as just another recreational drug, it becomes another way to avoid growing, changing, and facing the challenges of conscious living. The choice is always ours. Cannabis doesn't raise or lower your vibration, you do. The plant simply shows you where you already are and amplifies the direction you're already heading. As the ancient Hindu saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Cannabis can be a powerful teacher, but only for those who approach it with the respect, preparation, and sacred intention it deserves. The frequency of cannabis isn't fixed. It changes based on how we work with it. In the hands of the conscious seeker, it becomes a key to higher awareness. In the hands of the unconscious consumer, it becomes another chain of dependency. The ancient wisdom keepers knew this truth. Now it's time for us to remember it. The plant doesn't choose your path, you do. Cannabis simply makes that choice more obvious.